Hello students and welcome to lesson 4 of experiences of the color purple. Today we will be talking about advanced linking words. The outline of the class is as always divided into 3, where we will be starting up with a warm-up exercise. This one will not be included in the video that I'm recording currently, since it's something that we'll cover during class time. But if you want to see what we've done, you can always go to this lesson. So it's the shortened form is ECP-4, and you can find it on my website, feke.online. The B part, however, the lecture relating to advanced linking words, is the content that we will record during this video. And lastly, we will repeat what we've learned, the linking words, by reading a case related to Disney's Aladdin. This will also not be included in the video itself, but you can find it on the website. So the A part, the introduction, we're going to skip mostly. However, I'm going to stop here, which is related to the schedule that we have, the schedule. And as you can see, if you look right over there, I mean, I can't really point now, but anyway, we're on the 4th lesson relating to the color purple. And today I'm going to teach you about the linking words. But you can see that all in all, we have 12 lessons together, where the next lesson we will continue reading, we will be discussing the plot and the characters. What you've been taught today will be tested on the following lesson, the 6th, and then we will finish the book off by the 7th lesson, and also continue discussing and writing and discussing and writing, and then we'll take a reading test, which is going to be an Old English 7 reading test itself. Then we will prepare ourselves for the essay itself, and then finally receive feedback. And relating to this, I want to restate the 4 learning goals. So successful students will be able to read and to describe the characters and the events from the color purple, and also from postcolonial theory. Secondly, students will be able to compare examples from the color purple with postcolonial theory. Thirdly, and you see this part is yellow because it's what we will be covering today. That relates to writing, which is what you will be doing with the essay, and where we want you to be varied, precise, correct in terms of vocabulary and grammar, and also, as I've written, the structure relating to using linking words. That's what we will cover during this lesson. And lastly, a successful student will be able to discuss a personal connection to the color purple and postcolonial theory. These will be covered in other lessons. So this is the warm-up exercise, which relates to linking words, the linking words and, because, and but we're going to skip this and carry on straight to the B part, the advanced linking words. And as always, I implore of you to take notes. It's great for you to have your ideas jotted down here. If you have any questions, by all means send me a message either via Teams, or you can use the question box on my website. That's a great way to stay in contact with me. Right, so let's look back in time, shall we? And in this case, we're going to look at some of the skills that you most certainly were taught during English 6. And these are relating to sequencing. And sequencing is a way to construct external structure. External structure, in case you're not certain what that is, it relates to the framework of written or spoken English. I'm going to show you an example in just a second here, but the idea is that for you to be able to use words such as firstly, secondly, and finally, to begin with, in addition or additionally, and in conclusion. The idea here is to sequence the first, second, last, first, second, last, and so on and so on. And usually we create these by putting them at the beginning of a paragraph. This is where the external structure comes into play. What I mean by external is that it creates the external framework. It creates what's around the text or around your speaking. In this case, we can see that I have highlighted 3 of these external sequencing linking words. These are firstly, secondly, and finally. And the idea here is that they will show you a logical turn of events, the sequence within this text. In this case, says, firstly, many European countries seized control over large areas which subsequently led to using violence in order to assert dominance. Where firstly leads to this other part. Secondly, the native people were forced into learning European languages, cultures, and religion. And then, once again, finally, the actions of hundreds of years ago are still seen to this day. These are great because they help me as a reader or as a listener to understand the overall ideas that you are going to be presenting. We are going to go slightly deeper now, and we're going to increase the difficulty by looking at even more advanced linking words. And the advanced linking words I'm going to teach you today are going to help you with expanding your ideas, to connect ideas, and create relationships between them. Moreover, they will also create internal structure. And this is going to be quite different from the external one. And I'm going to show you that in just a little while when we look at the actual examples. But it's important for you to be able to understand that there's the external structure, what happens around the text. And then in this case, we are going to be looking at the internal structure, what is happening within the text itself. Furthermore, these are also going to help you improve upon the compound, complex sentences that we have been looking at in the past. These are the fanboys that I have taught you about. So without further ado, the 3 types of linking words we will be looking at today are related to elaboration, cause and effect, comparing and contrasting. Let's begin with elaboration. Here I'm using the symbols A leads to A, and the purpose of this is that we want you to be able to give us more information. The function then of elaboration is to give you a synonym to the very much overused and. And is a perfectly fine word. However, we want you to be able to use examples that or synonyms to and, I should say. But also, it will help you to provide examples to drive your explanation forward. That's why A leads to another A. It connects your ideas forward. The examples of elaboration and the synonyms to and we're going to be looking at are such as, for instance, as well as, in addition, for, furthermore, moreover. I mean, there are many of them, but in this case, we're going to focus on these. And I'm now going to show you a sentence, which we see on the screen right now. And here I have added actually 2 of those linking words to elaborate. And I made them yellow for you to easily spot them. The case here is that I've put them in the middle of 2 sentences, and this is what is meant with internal structure. I don't just put them at the beginning of a sentence, they actually show up in the middle of them to create that internal structure where you connect ideas. Here it says, while the scramble for Africa is associated with colonization, postcolonialism focuses on the effects such as studying how the modern map of Africa came to be. Or you could say, for instance, studying how the modern map of Africa came to be. Here is another example. And well, before we read that, let's look at the symbols that showed up right here. In this case, you can see that I've made a bracket around the top sentence. That is the first A part. So that's the beginning of it all. And then we're using the part in yellow, the linking words, to push even further with an example, such as or for instance. In the second example, I'm using two other linking words. We're going to be using in addition and moreover. And here it says, and this is based on the color purple that we're reading together. Seely is an example of someone who is oppressed, who, in addition, believes that she deserves her harsh treatment because of her ambiguity to men. And right now, some of you are going to be like, hold on, Feke, I recognize something happening here. This is actually a compound complex sentence, and that is absolutely correct. So if you look at these examples that I've made right here, the first one begins with while. While the scramble for Africa is associated with colonization. This is a dependent clause, isn't it? Then we have two independent clauses, and we've changed the fanboy and into a synonym, which is great because it helps you connect those longer, complex sentences. And also, you are varying yourself. You're becoming even better at finding just the right word for this occasion. Great, right? We will carry on to our second linking word, which is cause and effect. Here you can see that I've used the symbols A leads to B. And the reason for this is that cause and effect is going to help us to find synonyms instead of using because. It is perfectly fine to use because. However, we do tend to overuse it. And of course, when we want to tell someone why something happened or we want to provide results, it is perfectly normal to say, well, this happened because of that. Or I went there because I had to buy milk. Or I did this because of that. We are going to try to change those, and I want to stress this really. It's perfectly fine if you use and because and all of the other words every now and then. The issue that pops up at advanced level is when you use them all the time. It's the one that you only use, because then as a teacher I would say, I see, this student has a limited vocabulary, and we're going to try to expand our vocabulary here. The synonyms that we have now then to because are, well, there are many of them naturally, but some of the ones we're looking at today are due to, therefore, on the condition that, consequently, in order to, and so on. All of these are going to help us to give us a reason why something happened, and then what happened, well, after that occurred. Let's look at an example, shall we? Since the scramble, colonial education has made European way of life seem like the norm, and therefore, straight hair and fair skin are favored in colonized countries. Right, so here we see a case where straight hair and fair skin is something that is favored, something that people tend to think better of in colonized countries. And now we're looking at the reasons of it, right? We're looking back in time and saying like, aha, that's why, I understand. And we could say, consequently, straight hair, fair skin, blah, blah, blah. Like we saw before, we have something that leads to something else. We have a cause and an effect, the reason and why. Same thing at the bottom of the screen. We have another example. We're using due to instead of because, where it says Nigerian students still learn English in school due to their colonial history after all these years. Once again, an observant student would see that these are also compound complex sentences. Nigerian students still learn English in school due to their colonial history after all these years, and so on. Lastly, we're going to be looking at compare and contrast. Here, A is not B or A is B, which is a synonym to but. And the function of contrasting and comparing is to see if an example is similar to one another or if they aren't. Mostly we're going to be contrasting here, and that's why we have examples such as in comparison to, in contrast to, however, despite, in spite of, and whereas. The sentences that I will show you are going to be contrasting ideas mainly. So here it says, unless we understand how history unfolded, one would only have superficial knowledge of racism despite current events such as the Black Lives Matter movement. Second, let's look at the symbols first before we look at the other example. We can see here that the A part is people who have superficial knowledge of racism, and then even though or although or despite all of these events that have happened lately related to the Black Lives Matter movement. At the bottom of the screen, we see another example where it says, because we study postcolonialism, we can understand the way African American vernacular English has developed, in comparison to those who have the ambivalent feeling of standard English being superior. Or you could say in contrast to, both of them work just as fine. All right. Students who have been taking this lesson in class know what's up next. We have an exercise where I want you to categorize these linking words. I want you to draw 3 columns where you put the words at the bottom into each of those columns. Where you you just find the words that essentially are synonyms to and, because, and but. But we won't do this during this video, since you can find the exercises on my web page. The same thing goes for the next exercise, which is related to reading Aladdin. So everyone who have been watching this video, thank you so much. Please stay in touch. If you have any questions, let me know, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.